everyone. Welcome everybody to this session as well. So it's great to have such large numbers. So hopefully you'll find these sessions very interesting and you get some useful information from them on your future careers and particularly what you want to study in university. So my name is Owen Whelan. I'm a lecturer in Business Information Systems. So I'm going to be telling you all about what Business Information Systems is and what kind of subjects do you study and what kind of a career can you hope to get out of studying a degree in Business Information Systems. So first of all, just to explain what Business Information Systems is. So it's quite simple, really. If you have an interest in digital technology and you have an interest in business, well, then Business Information Systems could be a subject for you. So Business Information Systems is all about using digital technology to it's all about trying to figure out how all these great digital technologies that we have at our disposal, how they're affecting individuals and businesses and society at large. And what can we do to make sure that those technologies are actually used in a way that adds value to everybody? So if you have an interest in technology, I'm sure you're all on Instagram and Snapchat, you probably play video games, so you know how all these technologies work. If you want to figure out how they can be applied to organizations and society to make things better, well, that's what Business Information Systems is all about. It's all about understanding the technology, how it works, designing different technologies, designing apps and things like that. But then thinking more about, well, how can we use this technology to make things better? How can organizations, how can businesses use these technologies to add value to what they do? So if you have an interest in digital technology and business, this will be a good subject for you. So in terms of myself, so I started off, I did a degree in accountancy and finance, as Mary was talking about earlier. When I started working as a management accountant, I got exposed to digital technology, actually evaluating technology, implementing those systems into an organization. And I found that's what I really enjoy doing. I loved seeing how the digital technology worked, how it had an effect on the company, how people used it, how it changed things. So I decided that was the route I was going to go down, and I went back and did a research degree and a PhD and ended up as an academic in BIS. So a lot of my colleagues in BIS would have the same kind of a background. They would have worked maybe for a couple of years out in industry and started to do research and came back in and are now working as academics. So in Business Information Systems, we have 13 full permanent members of staff, and they would all have industry experience. They'd all be out doing research projects with various different companies. And the great thing about that is we're able to bring those insights from industry back into the classroom and discuss them and share them with students so that you're getting exposed to the latest trends in digital technology and how they're affecting business. So in terms of Business Information Systems, we have our own undergraduate degree in Business Information Systems, a BSc in BIS. So it's a 4-year program. So over that 4 years, you will study these 3 areas essentially. So BIS, when you study it, it's a combination of business subjects, of technology, actually designing the technology systems, and then actually figuring out, well, how do you manage digital technology? How do we come up with a strategy to make sure that our company is actually using digital technology in an effective way that's going to add value and make us a better company? So that's what we mean by technology management. So just to run through some of the subjects or courses that you can expect to do under these different banners. So in terms of business, you do the general business subjects. You learn about management and strategy, accountancy and finance and economics, because that's an underpinning for every organization. You have to understand those particular areas. So in combination with the business subject, you will also do the nuts and bolts of technology, actually designing and developing information systems. So that can be apps or databases or designing websites, multimedia applications. So you get exposed to a lot of application development over your 4 years on the degree. So application development, databases, web development using multimedia, the latest technologies to design websites and apps. So you get exposed to all those different areas. The third stream then is actually managing that technology. So in today's world, organizations, they're crying out for people who have skills, who understand technology and understand business, because they need people who can manage that business for them, or those technologies for them, to make sure that they're actually adding value to their organization. So the type of subjects you would do under technology management would be things like managing digital transformation. So if you think of the world now and the whole pandemic situation, and it's been totally transformed by digital technology. So for example, us here today, normally we'd be meeting on campus, we'd be having an open day, or everyone be meeting face to face. We can't do that. We're very reliant on technology and digital technology. And that's the same for a lot of organizations. A lot of their traditional business has moved to the digital world, and they need people who understand digital technology can actually manage that for them. Cybersecurity is very important in today's world as well. The great thing about digital technology that it enables information and data to move very quickly and swiftly around the globe. The downside of that it can potentially get into the wrong hands and people can steal funds and money and things like that. So being able to protect information from people who want to do harm or get access to it, you learn skills in cybersecurity and digital forensics as well. So digital strategy is all about coming up with plans and strategies to try and make sure that when a new technology comes along, that your company can actually understand and critique and understand what it does and actually implement it in a way that's going to add value to the organization as well. So they're the core areas of business information systems degree. So our degree is a 4-year program. In your 3rd year, you actually go on placement. So we organize for you to go out and do work experience. We work for companies like Google and Facebook and Cisco and Dell and Intel, and we organize that for you. And that's a paid placement. You get paid to work for those particular companies. And that's great. You get to apply all the knowledge that you learned in your degree. You get to apply that in real life situation. And very often what we see that when students come back from placement, they have a far better idea of what they want to do as a career. So they might realize they got exposed to maybe programming and they really like that, working for a company that's doing programming and implementing new applications, or they might get involved in a project advising or doing systems analysis or something like that, and have a far better idea of what they want to do. And in a lot of cases, the company that took a student on in placement will actually give them a contract. So as soon as they graduate, they can come back and work for the company as well. So that's an overview of what a BIS degree is. I should also say that on the BCom, the Bachelor of Commerce, we also have a stream in digital technology and management. So you can also, if you're interested in business and technology, you don't necessarily have to do the degree in BIS. You can also do the BCom and then pick to do the BIS stream as well, where you get exposed to a lot of these areas as well. Not so much on the programming side of things, but certainly on the management of technology. So what kind of work or what kind of questions are people in BIS concerned with? What do we occupy our time with? So just some examples of that. So you might hear a lot in today's world about how new technologies are totally changing the way the world works. So we hear a lot about artificial intelligence, about machine learning, how some people are going to lose their jobs, how it's going to create work in other areas. Well, this is typically the work of BIS. When new technologies come along, we would have the skills and the knowledge to critically assess that technology and see, well, is this technology genuine, or is it all hype? Does it have the potential to transform a particular industry or change business models? And if so, well, how do organizations have to react to make sure that they exploit this technology, that it's not going to wipe them out, for example, or it's not going to take over their business model? So that's typically a type of project that we would do in BIS. We would assess a new technology, actually figure out what does this new technology do, and how can we exploit it to make sure that it's going to add value to whatever area that we want to exploit it in. So to give kind of examples of that, over recent years, you would have heard of new technologies or companies emerging up like Airbnb and Uber, who have been called disruptive technologies. That it might, like Airbnb might disrupt the hotel industry. When Airbnb came along, now people can book their own apartment in a city if they want to go away for a weekend break or something like that. They're no longer dependent on staying in a hotel. Well, that's fine, but now hotels, that's threatening their business model. So they have to figure out, well, how do we respond to a potential digital threat like Airbnb? How do we change our business model? How do we use technology in a way that's going to add value to our customers? How do we outcompete and outmaneuver Airbnb? So they're typically the higher level questions that we would think about in BIS. I should also say that a lot of our graduates actually go on to set up their own startup companies. So they might want to be a company like Airbnb, where you threaten the business model of a large incumbent company. So we actually actively support that in BIS. So some of our graduates, they'd go off, they'd work in industry for 2 or 3 years, they'd get an idea about a new technology or a startup company that they want to create, and they would go down that route and set up go down their own entrepreneurial adventure. So in BIS, we actively support our students to become entrepreneurs. We have our own computer labs, and one of those labs is turned into a collaborative space where students can come along and work together on projects, even if they're outside their course, if they're extracurricular, even better still. And we actually have a fund, a budget that we allocate to students who want to work on their own startup company or startup idea, for example. So just to give you an example of some of the projects or ideas or how companies are using digital technology. So let me give you this example from a comedy club in Barcelona. So this business, it was in danger, it was relatively successful, but the Spanish government brought in a tax where any entertainment clubs, people who went into those clubs had to pay an extra €15. So as a result of this new tax, the business was in danger of shutting down. Footfall had totally declined. So the business that thought about, well, how can we use digital technology to make sure that we survive and actually enhance our business? So what they decided to do is they put tablet, iPad type devices on every seat. So they didn't charge people to go into the comedy club, but their business model changed. That when you went to the comedy club, the iPad would have an app on it which would scan your facial expressions, and they had made a deal that if you laugh, every time you laugh in a comedy club, you pay 50 cents, up to a maximum of €15. So as a result of this, it totally changed the business model for this particular comedy club, and footfall increased dramatically, and they were able to use the digital technology in a way that not only saved their business, but it enhanced their business and made it even more profitable for them. So that's a good example of the type of work BIS people will do. You look at new technologies and how they can be used to improve your business model and change your business model. Yeah, so some of the other work that you might expect to do as BIS, so we hear a lot about cybersecurity and data breaches in today's world. Technology is great, it allows information to move around the world in seconds, but sometimes people can get access to it, get access to your bank accounts. We all do banking digitally nowadays. So actually protecting that information and data, whether it's your bank accounts, your employees' details, your customers' credit card details, companies are extremely concerned about this. So they want people with skills in cybersecurity. And that's something that you would get from a BIS degree. You'd learn the technical side of how to secure information, but also the strategy side of it as well. So in terms of careers and jobs, the good news is that every organization in the world relies heavily on digital technology, and it doesn't matter what industry or what company or what country, there is always a demand for people with skills in IT and business. So I'll just have some news clips from the media in recent days. So the IT sector is on the rise, particularly as a result of the pandemic. Lots of businesses are turning towards digital technology to transform their business model, and they need people who understand technology and business, and hence the reason why BIS graduates are in such demand. The same, or another recent report, if you look at what jobs and skills will be in demand in 4 or 5 years' time, information and communication technology comes out on top. So people who understand analytics, who understand digital technology, cloud computing, gaming, all these areas, you get exposed to those on BIS. Yet the Irish Times had a recent article on future-proofing in a pandemic-hit job market. And it's interesting to see the kind of areas that they predict will be very important in the coming years as a result of the pandemic. So data analytics, that's definitely something that's important. We cover that in BIS. So that's all about taking a large data set and being able to mine that and find patterns in it and use that information to make better decisions. Evolving IT security threats, again, cybersecurity, how do you protect information to make sure that it stays in the right hands, whether it's bank information or patents or trade secrets or employee details or customer credit cards. And as well, a lot of companies need people who can design web-based services. So having skills in programming languages like Java and .NET will be seen to be very important. And those two technologies, we cover those in the first year actually of the BIS undergraduate degree. So you will get exposure in designing web-based services using those technologies. So how are we doing for time? Okay, nearly there. So yeah, just to give you an insight into some of our graduates, our alumni, and where they ended up as a result of doing their BSc in Business Information Systems. So Mary Casey graduated about 3 years ago, and Mary works for Deloitte. So Deloitte are obviously a big accountancy firm, but they also have a consultancy angle as well. So Mary is a consultant, a senior consultant within Deloitte. So today, typically, what technology consultants would do, so a client would come along to Deloitte, maybe a bank or something like that. They might be worried that their valuable data could be getting to the wrong hands, that they want to make sure it's protected. So then consultants, technology consultants like Deloitte would advise the bank on how they can go about securing all their valuable information. What technologies do they need to implement? What strategies and plans do they need to adopt to make sure that all that valuable information is protected? Dermot Murphy is working over in Seattle, or just outside Seattle, with a company I'm sure you've heard of, Microsoft. So he is the senior business planner for the gaming strategy for the Xbox. So Dermot actually started off designing video games in the Xbox genre, and ended up moving more towards the strategy side of things. So actually designing, coming up with a strategy for the Xbox, what games are they going to produce, how are they going to compete with Nintendo and things like that. So obviously a very interesting job that Dermot has over in Microsoft. Kathleen Garrity works for Google. Started off working up in their Dublin headquarters, and got a promotion and moved out to their Googleplex in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley. So she's the leading community and social engagement officer for a number of Google applications. So again, very interesting work as well. And finally, Martin McDonough. So Martin works for a company called Smartbear. So Smartbear design what are called APIs, application programming interfaces. So basically, if you want to get two systems to communicate together, you need something called an API. It's like a translator, essentially, and that's what Smartbear do. They produce or design a number of different APIs so different systems can communicate with each other. So Martin was based a long time in Galway, their headquarters in Ireland, and got a promotion recently and is now out in Melbourne. So yeah, just on time. So that's me. So if you have any questions, you want to find out any further information about BIS, you can just look us up on the website, contact me or contact any of my colleagues. We're only too happy to help you out. So thank you.